Hey, go back to your, I'll never talk dollar figures, with you on the back end, but let's talk on the front end. Because when I got into the business in WCW, well, first of all, when I got in Dallas, I was making 15 and $20 a night. And then when I worked for Jarrett and USWA, I was making 15, $20 a night. And dude, those were some brutal car trips. And it was the funnest time of my life. I was starving to death, but I was learning a shit pile of information about the business of pro wrestling and working with some extremely talented guys. All of a sudden, I'm starting to get a little traction due to my high-profile feud with Chris Adams. I get a call from Tom Pritchard. He goes, "Hey, man," because Tom was hooked in. He was connected. He goes, "Hey, Dusty wants to talk to you down there in WCW." This is when Dusty had the book. I flew down to Atlanta. I visited with Dusty. I said, "Yeah, man, I'm working heel. I'm working a Stunning Steve." He goes, "Yeah, baby, I've been seeing you on the television. I like what you do." And he brought me in. Okay, here's the deal. When you first signed with WCW, your first contract was $75,000. This was back in the day. Then your contract rolled over and went to a $156. Sometimes it went to 105, but most time it went to $156. After that second year, then it was a free-for-all. You were up for negotiation. So, dude, when you go from making 15, $20 a night to 75 G's, that is a shitload of money.
Absolutely.
Now, in the big scheme now, not so much.
Well, it's all relative.
But first year, not anything after the first year. When you came in first year, what kind of dough were you making?
I can't remember, to be perfectly honest with you, man. I don't remember, but I know that I never made more than the minimum in the NFL. So which was, I can't fucking, 150, something like that in my life.
It wasn't a shitload.
So it wasn't a shitload by any stretch.
The big money was to come once you got the agent, the lawyer in place, and you had the leverage.
Within 6 months or 8 months, when I went from wrestling dark matches with Manny Fernandez at Universal Studios to, wrestling Scott Hall and Hogan at the Georgia Dome, I was making more in 6 months than I did playing the NFL in a year, exponentially.
How did you fit into the locker room when you first came in? All of a sudden, there's this big fucking jacked up dude, and you had a look and a presence. And all of a sudden, you're getting in the ring, you get a mega push. I mean, because people started responding to you, dude. You got over. You had a presence. You had a gimmick. You had a look. You had the explosion. To get over, you establish a relationship with the crowd, and that crowd has expectations from you from then on, in your career. Like you said, the chinks in the armor, if you're building something. But you have to identify with that crowd, whether it's love or hate. They bought into the Goldberg thing. So all of a sudden, you get hotter than you probably got hotter than anybody in a short run that I've ever seen in the history of the business. How did that impact the locker room and people's perception of you? Now, you said earlier, you're trying to help everybody out, but all of a sudden you're turning into a megastar. How did the temperature change?
It was, there were,
There had been a lot of guys resent you.
They were hot and cold. There's always the resentment. There's always the Steven Regal match. How can you paint anything other than resentment on that match other than that? The office didn't tell him to go out there and try to take advantage of me and beat up a guy who had no idea what the fuck was going on.
So what was that match?
Ask Steve. I have no idea. I just know he tried to kick my face in a couple times, and I was just giving him my face. And hey, at the end of the day, man, if I still don't know, it's all good, man. He's a shooter. He and the other, dude who was there at the time, Dave Taylor. It's all good. If that made him feel better, then fine. But, I don't get it. I'd love to fucking scrap with him right now. It'd be beautiful. I'd love to, at the time of knowing what he was going to do. But at the end of the day, it was resentment.
But was that a learning example? Was that a learning experience for you? Because obviously you didn't know what's going on.
Everything you do is a learning experience.
Thank you.
Everything you do, both good and bad. I told my son last night after they get the shit beat out of him in a baseball game, I said, you know what? You can't look at it in a negative tone because you got a hit. You did great behind the plate. You threw a guy out at second base. You have to take negatives and turn them into positives. Okay. And, hey, I didn't trust every single motherfucker past that point. When guys wanted to set stuff up, I questioned it from that point, so in a way, it was good for me. In a way, it was the downfall of my attitude towards the business.
So did you become disenchanted with the business?
Yeah, because at the end,
What? Because
there's
it's such a
always
work.
going to be people. No, but there's always going to be people that take advantage of other people, no matter what circumstance it is. And I worked my ass off at the power plant. Ask anybody who went with me.
I'm in Dallas.
Anybody, dude. I had video cameras set up. I'd study fucking hours of the UFC. When the UFC had the instructional tapes out, like Shamrock had one, Severn had one, Goodrich, everybody had one. I studied every single thing. I watched tapes. I watched freaking hours of UWF. I watched Japanese pancrase. I watched everything. And I try to emulate the moves there. Robbie Rage, high voltage, those guys, Kenny Chaos. Man, and then I owned that big MMA gym at the time. Man, I was a student of the craft. I wasn't that was paid by any stretch of the imagination. I couldn't sit there and give you a 14-page, outline of a match. I couldn't look at it from that analytical standpoint. But if you give me a scenario where you want violence, I can fucking give you violence like anybody that's ever stepped in the ring or anywhere else. It's like doing some of these movies and watching a stunt coordinator go through a fight scene and you're like, really? You get paid to do that? If you would have asked me, I could have given you something a lot cooler in a very shorter period of time.